Hello and welcome to the podcast for the preview of what is currently titled NFL Week 5, but given some breaking news about a variety of different COVID reports, may well become the preview for next year's season of NFL. But whatever, we're joined here by the usual four turkeys in Fooey.
Hello.
Blackie.
G'day, mate.
Brasher.
G'day, mate.
And this episode, we've got some special guests in American Crow. How you going, American Crow?
Good. Good day, mate.
Oh, that almost, yeah, okay. I might have to exercise some editorial control on that one. And Aussie Dude, who, as the username suggests, doesn't need to do the g'day mate accent. Hey, mate.
How's it going, boys?
Surely if American Crow does an Aussie accent, then Aussie Dude should do an American accent.
Oh, I like that idea. Let's hear it, Aussie Dude. You're too shy, Aussie Dude. That's disappointing. Oh, now he's going to grab a drink. All right, that's good. He's finally worked out that to get through this podcast, he needs to be liquored up. All right, really quickly, because clearly we need to talk about the 8th best division in football to start with. I think probably the highlight game of the week, I'm sure you'll agree with this, Blackie. The highlight game of the week has got to be Giants-Cowboys in the Dome in Dallas. Would you agree? You're looking forward to that one, mate?
When a pathetic force meets a movable object, I think it'll be one of the worst offenses going around meeting one of the worst defense, but I just actually think Cowboys will just blow them out.
Brash?
I think the Cowboys might actually put a lead up early on this one, and they'll probably hold on.
American Crow, do you wish these two teams were in your division?
Absolutely. I'd love to play them twice each, for sure.
Remember he said that, folks, when the Browns lose 9 in a row. Aussie Dude, game of the week, you'd agree, Giants-Cowboys? Certainly from the TV scheduling, have to absolutely jump all over that as game of the week, yeah?
Oh, well, might be one of the few games that will go ahead this week, I guess, because who knows what other teams are going to be doing. But if the Giants ever wanted to look good, it will be against the Cowboys defense. And, if the Cowboys defense ever want to gain a slither of respect back, it is probably against Danny Dimes and a Giants team that has no Barkley.
Fooey, do you think, Fooey, that there's going to be appropriate social distancing maintained on this game? Because let's face it, there ain't going to be many tackles.
No, definitely not. I think everyone's pretty much got it right so far. It's kind of the perfect combination of ineptness and patheticness. Game of the week, definitely.
All right, Steve DeBerg contest of the week, featuring Tom Brady against Nick Foles. Have I summed it up correctly there, Bresh?
I was just reading a quote from Bill O'Brien. Sorry, it just cracked me. Sorry.
Oh, I'll share it. Go on. But we'll turn this into a preview of Jaguars Texans.
No, it was about Aaron Wilson. When former Texan coach GM Bill O'Brien fired people over the years, he did so with a lot of F-bombs in order to get the fuck out of the building. Immediately per sources, that wasn't how he was today. It was nothing but civility and respect. And it's just saying that he still deserve it. He should be told to get fucked as well. But anyway, sorry. The question was?
Buccaneers, Bears. Steve DeBerg game of the week, or is there a better one that's Steve DeBerg game of the week?
Bucks and the Bears. I'm a firm believer that Foles plays with house money. When the expectations are low, he plays well. And now he's the anointed starter. And I just don't know. The Bears should be okay, yeah. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl MVP, but there's just a big delta between what he turns out when he is expected to form and when he's not expected to form. I think the Bears
weather like there.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. It's at home. It's in Chicago, yeah?
Yeah, because Chicago were one of the teams that offered Brady a contract, and he said he didn't want to play in a cold weather city anymore.
Yeah, he wanted to do.
Poor Tommy. Tommy.
Tommy wanted to do, or TB12 wanted to do what all other 8-year-olds do. They want to go retire to Florida. So, I think the Bears will just get home in this one, BPG.
Sorry, Brash. It's not me editing out your excellence through his phone. Blackie, game of the week for you?
Well, on the basis that New England and Denver's probably not going to go ahead, I'm reasonably interested in watching Cincinnati and Baltimore. And I suspect that my esteemed colleague, American Crow, will have keen interest in that game too. I think outside of that, I think Chargers Vs and I sense an upset.
What would be the upset?
Drew Brees going to throw 21 yards down the field.
With or without two bounces?
Stiff wind behind him, but it is in the dome. Damn it.
Is it? Oh.
But no, I
Brash, you were
think
going to
Chargers
say?
should come off.
My pick of the game this week.
You were saying something, but you cut out.
No. I'm sorry. I just said the Dome. Otherwise, he can't get that tailwind to get it 21 yards.
All right, Aussie dude, how are the Dolphins going to go? Are they going to beat up on Brash's team? Fitzmagic going to deliver a beat down to CJ Beathard?
Oh, depends on exactly how many healthy players are going to be left on that defense.
None.
Exactly what it's
There's
looking
none.
like at the moment.
There's
I mean,
none,
you're down
mate.
to what, fourth string defensive line, and
So do you think the Dolphins will actually have to bring a defense, do you?
They won't have to bring an offense.
that's probably one of the games I don't really care much for this week. There's a
I
couple of decent ones.
I
All
don't
right,
think
then.
for it.
Well, which is your favourite game then, Aussie dude?
Well, I kind of interested in the Thursday night game more so for the broadcast options from Amazon, like the live X's and O's plays by Daniel Jeremiah and a couple of the others. Because that hopefully will be a bit like the film room that ESPN does for the college megacast.
Yeah, mate, you need to. Yeah, look, if that's what you're after, you just need to listen to this podcast more because watching Blackie
I
and Brash
enjoyed
do
it,
their
boy.
work, it's like X's and O's all over the joint.
Yeah, I
It
know.
really
Well,
is.
it's a bit hard when you don't put the podcast up until 2 o'clock in the morning on a Monday.
Ooh.
Go. I'm glad someone finally said it.
Do you know how long it takes to edit all the ums out?
Yes, I'm preparing my my deputization of editing to Aussie dude. And we'll see how
Let's
he
go.
feels about it after a week of editing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know,
Sound good?
anyone who doesn't know us on this podcast, see our predictions the following week come out after the round and we get them all wrong. They go, who the fuck are these guys? It comes out after the week and they still get all their picks wrong.
I
Yes.
reckon the Kansas City Vegas game could be all right if it goes ahead. But see if the Kansas City defense will get a bit more of a test from Jacobs. They're still going to get their chances from Carter, score that way. And Mahomes played probably his worst game in a while, but it seems like Bill Belichick does have a formula for him because I saw a stat that there's only 3 games that Mahomes has played where he's not scored a touchdown in the first half, and all 3 against the Patriots. I don't know, and the Monday night game I'm really looking forward to see a lot more of Herbert, even with their injuries. And I don't know, the other game would be the Colts and the Browns, because 2 teams I'm not really sure about, and 2 teams I'm also not sure how they're 3-1.
American Crow, Aussie dude displaying a distinct lack of interest in your or belief, shall I say, in your 3-1 record.
I
You
have
looking
interest.
forward to the game?
Yes, for sure. I obviously it's a measuring stick kind of game for us. The interesting thing about the Browns is even when they've been bad, they've had pretty good success against Phillip Rivers when he was in San Diego. Now they didn't play him a whole lot, but when they did, they were able to contain him. So we'll see with this defense whether they can do that. But yeah, for sure, this is a big game. It's at home, and if you want to take the next step, you got to win these games. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this game, no doubt.
Foo, which
I
team
wanna
you
see
going to
how
be
the
hang?
Browns. I just want to see how the Browns running game's going to look with Chubb out for 6 weeks, because they looked good in the second half against Dallas, but that might just be more about Dallas's poor defense. How's the the rest of the running back by committee going to go against a good team? And I reckon it's going to be a really big game for in the trenches, because I really like what the Colts are doing with Taylor, and their offensive line can open up blocking running lanes for him. So it's just going to be 2 running backs that will try and get, or 2 teams that will try and get 200 yards of running and throw it as little as possible, I guess.
Well, the good news for the Browns is they lose Chubb, which is a huge loss. There's no getting around that. But you pick up Kareem Hunt. So as long as his groin is better than it was this past couple weeks, I'm not sure that there's going to be much of a drop off there. And you got to give credit to the Browns' offensive line. I know I posted on the thread, and some of you guys probably saw it. Bill Callahan probably might have been the biggest coaching pickup the Browns had this offseason. He has orchestrated an offensive line that right now is at the top of its game. There's no getting around that. I know Dallas's defense isn't good, but they were getting blown off the ball. And when you rush for 300 yards in the NFL, you're doing something right. I don't care who the defense is. So it's going to be a test. There's no doubt Indianapolis's defense is much superior to the Cowboys. But, you know, I'm glad, I'm happy to eat crow in this situation. I was concerned that Wills would be able to make the transition from right tackle in college to left tackle for the Browns, but with a couple of exceptions throughout games, which is natural when you're a rookie, he's done an outstanding job. And the Browns offensive line, they put draft picks and money into reconstituting that from last year, and without question, it is the number one reason why we're sitting at 3-1. So yeah, I'm anxious to see how they match up against Indianapolis. It's a good test for them because in 2 weeks we're looking at the Steelers, and we all know what their defense is like. So it'll be interesting, but I'm not as concerned that the drop off is going to be something they can't handle, especially if Hunt's at 100%.
What's Hunt like at third down, or is that just going to be a Baker Mayfield down, well, for the next while? But yeah, I saw something good on Callahan. Basically, he's the coach you want for your offensive line, but you do not want him as a head coach, which, you know.
Oh no, there's no doubt. He's in his element. He's the offensive line coach, and that's where he should be. I don't dispute that at all. And you hit on a good point. Oftentimes, we see it over and over again, guys are really good at being offensive or defensive coordinators, and they take that, you know, they try to take the head coaching job and they get lost. So
like Vic Fangio.
Yeah, he's one that I'd mention. We could do a segment on who's on the hot seat, because I reckon there's a coach in every division just about, except for probably the AFC North and the NFC West, that I could see fired at the end of the year.
If somebody had gotten his arse in gear and posted the season previews division by division, you'd already have heard our views on that, but perhaps that'll be posted in the next few weeks.
Okay, for the 2021.
Really quickly, from my point of view, I was interested that none of you so far have said you're hanging out for the I think the third team that the head coach Romeo Crennel's debuted for. Are we going to see Deshaun Watson suddenly deploy all of his talent, or does Gardner Minshew get his first real kind of easy run of the year because JJ Watt's still fuming about things?
I think the Texans win that going away because they've Bill O'Brien's lost that locker room before the season started. So I think they will come out firing and hand the Jags a fair old thumping.
Who's the offensive coordinator now? Because Crennel's a defensive coach, I think.
Yeah.
Who's calling the plays?
Would he be the guy that Bill O'Brien took play calling duties off the day Bill O'Brien was fired? I don't know his name.
Was it that literally the same day?
Yep. He announced he was taking over calling duties, and 3 hours later he was greeted with a tweet. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke.
Oh, they'll just get Watson to draw up plays in the sand for every down.
Well, it's got to be better than what the so-called.
I'll run this route.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's got to be better than what the so-called coaches were drawing up. I mean, it's phenomenal how bad some of the play calls are. Atlanta's another one, and I hesitate to raise this, Philly, because I know you're into quarterback whisperers, but are we going to see Bridgewater absolutely engineer a comeback and the Falcons fold yet again, having had a 37-point lead this week?
This was actually probably the game that I was wanting to watch, and I'm surprised that Brash hasn't said anything because he does love his Panthers-Falcons games. So, I think it'll be good. Falcons were their defensive backfield was horrible last week, but the rest wasn't too bad. They spent a fair bit of time in the Packers' backfield at various times during the game, and there was probably a few seconds there that I was actually worried we might lose. But they weren't as bad. But yeah, their defensive backs are just as bad as Minnesota's.
Just on that, I thought that the Falcons' offense looked disinterested all game.
Yeah.
Or is it the Packers are that good?
No, well, it's our defense, though, man. Our defense.
I just thought they were listless and didn't look like they were really. I know you were a bit worried when they started to come back a little bit and got closer. I never really thought, they're not. No, this ain't going to happen.
But that's Falcons offense with Julio Jones that his injury because he left, half time? He didn't come back after?
Yeah, and he probably shouldn't have started at all.
No, well, he came in with an injury, and
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley's hobbled.
Yeah, I just never thought they looked, because I do love when the NFC South teams are up and about. I do love watching those games because they're end to end. There's never more than one score in it. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Philly, because I actually do want to see Carolina, because I think this McCaffrey injury at the moment is doing them a huge favour, because the other offensive players are realising maybe they do have a role to play on this team. So that will make them a better football team ultimately, and I've always had a bit of a soft spot for her anyway.
Yeah, Mike Davis actually, he kind of reminds me of if you guys remember Fred Lane, similar kind of stocky build and just the way he runs. So hopefully he brings back the electric worm. That'd be good.
I think the other guys know what that is.
Have tried to perform it and got a broken tooth and a chipped bone in my foot as a result, but we won't go any further.
We will need to hear more about that one day.
Yeah.
Only after a large bottle of Scott. I am supremely disappointed that no one has remarked, and given we have two panelists, not one but two panelists that are a fan of this club, that no one has yet remarked on how much poorer their week will be for their team being on the first of the bye weeks. How are you going to get through the week?
I think I said it in the first page of the thread. This is the first time I'm glad that we had an early bye because of our injuries. I'm fine with letting our players rest up, because we need to get Clark back, and Rasheed Gary missed the last game, and Adams is out. Although our injuries are absolutely nothing compared to what the Niners have, but
yeah.
Well, I mean,
hey.
hey, totally forgetting the overuse injury from Aaron Rodgers' shoulder. That fucking thing's going to drop off in a minute, all right? Like, that's your
why
biggest
we use
injury.
Aaron Jones so much. Just,
We've
let him throw.
got a four-headed
30
monster at running back, so we're not worried about his arm.
Oh,
But
as
no, I
long
think-
as he can hand it off, he's fine.
And
That's right.
And you got the George Kittle lookalike.
Fui,
Put
if
some
that's your
respect
idea of
on
a four-headed monster, you must have been really, really, really petrified by Bambi.
In all seriousness, though, I think I might just wake up at 4 a.m. and just rewatch Packer games.
For the Packers, I hope we do get a season, because it's set up for them to get all the way to the number one seed. I think it's now opened up. I said last week that you only had 2 games to worry about. I don't think got any now, because I don't think 49ers are any sort of risk to you guys now at all. You guys should go all the way to the number one seed and home.
If Seattle can get a defense, then that would be the only team I reckon that would trouble us for either the one seed or in the playoffs.
Yeah, if the 49ers all of a sudden got healthy, you wouldn't want to play the only player that's out of any consequence the year is Bosa. If the 49ers got healthy, you wouldn't want to run into them, because they could get hot, because they got the personnel still. But mate, there's no guarantee that they got 2 back. They got Kittle and Samuel back this week, and then lost another 2. So it's not like the bug is going to stop, right? We needed to win on the weekend against the Eagles. I don't think we can make up the ground to get a play. We'll drop. We've still got 5 games against the rest of the NFC West. That's a death march itself. So I hope Green Bay get all the way there, and because they should. I just think it's all opened up for you guys now to do that.
Well, that extra wild card now makes it a whole lot different, because you basically now you can get in from second in just about every division.
Third, you can get in third now, realistically, from your division if you're in a good division and you
play. If you're in a
play.
good division, you could get in from third in previous years. You just take both wild cards. It's happened before.
Yeah, not very often. What I think's unfair is not so much that they've let another team in at the 7th best spot, using BPG's words. The fact they've created a significant delta between the first, second best team now in the division, and there can be bugger all different. When it all plays out by the end of the year, there may be nothing between, say, Green Bay going 16-0 and 15-1, and say a Seattle Seahawks going 14-2, who clearly play a much tougher schedule. But the delta with the Delta having the week off, I think it's a significantly unfair advantage to the number 2 seed. I think they're the most disadvantaged team now with this new playoff format is whoever gets the number 2 seed. The
Yeah,
rest
I
is
think I
pretty
said
much.
that when they announced the new playoff format. Like, it's now just basically designed for 1v1 in the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah. And you know, there can be bugger all different between the 1, 2, and 3. Like look at last year. It took a goal line tackle for the 49ers to get the number 1 seed. They could have number 4. That's how close it is. But now you create this artificial gap in the seedings. I think it'll change. That's one of the reasons I want the season to play out, so they can play this ridiculous playoff format, and then everyone can spew about it, so they change it next off season. If we don't finish the season, we're going to have it next year as well.
So
They won't
American
change
Crow.
it simply because it gives them an extra 2 TV games to.
No, but they might change the seeding. No. What I'm suggesting
seeding.
is the format change. I think 7. They may go to 8.
I'd
8
prefer
playoffs.
8.
Yeah.
And
I'd
keep
prefer
the 1, 2 as the buys.
Yeah, but I think they've got to change this unfair advantage that exists between the first and second seed that they've created now.
So American Crow, just to be really clear on Brash's point, he's saying that Cleveland is the 3rd ranked team in the division, even though you got a 3-1 record, probably shouldn't get in. Is that a fair call, or?
No, what I'm saying is they could be very.
Hey, I was asking American Crow
No,
on mine.
You're saying it's a fair call. That's not exactly what I said at all. What I'm saying.
I know it's me deliberately misrepresenting you to get a reaction from a guest.
From a guest.
I'm the Joe Rogan of this podcast. All right.
Okay.
No, seriously, American Crow. What's your view?
Yeah, more like Darren Hinch.
Oh, that's a compliment. I'm happy with that. American Crow, what's your view of?
Makes us the beauties.
Oh, I was so going to go there, but yeah, I won't. American Crow, what's your view of the potential for Cleveland to keep this almost historically, uniquely successful record, but potentially stay in 3rd place of the division? Would you feel bummed missing out, even in an expanded year?
Well, first of all, I think that the 3 teams from the AFC North can actually make the playoffs. If the season ended today, that's exactly where it would be. The Browns would be the 7th seed. So I disagree that we could finish 3rd and not get in. I think the opposite is true. We could finish 3rd and still get in. I'm not sold we're going to finish 3rd, though. I think the next 2 weeks will tell the tale. You got Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. And if the Browns can come out of that with a split, I don't see why they wouldn't be a contender even for the AFC North title. It is interesting that they expanded the playoffs this year. I agree that the team that finishes 2nd is going to be real upset in both conferences. But I think that the NFL purposely did that to incentivize the teams playing out to the end of the season. How often do we see the number 1 and 2 seeds lay down in their games? And oftentimes it has an impact on who makes the playoffs. And I point to the last time the Browns were really any good, which is 2007. They finished with a 10-6 record. They didn't make the playoffs because the team we're playing this weekend decided to lay down because they could. And I understand why they would, but as tough as it is to say, well, the 2nd seed is being punished, I think that there has to be a solution to prevent other teams from laying down to allow the manipulation of the seedings at the bottom end. No, the Browns, look, they didn't play great teams the last 2 weeks, but I take that back. I think Dallas, everybody has thought Dallas would have a better season. Certainly the Redskins aren't a good team. The Bengals are not a good team. And, you play the teams that you're supposed to play each week. The fact that they're winning these games is a good sign, because how often do we see the Browns play a team like Washington and find a way to lose? So I take it as a good sign. I'm curious to see what happens the next 2 weeks, but I don't agree that finishing 3rd is necessarily means that whoever finishes 3rd I almost said the AFC Central, the AFC North, is not going to make the playoffs. I think there's every chance that division is going to get 3 teams in.
I think you still have teams lie down in, week 17 if they have the 1 or the 2 locked up and can't move up or down, but you'll always get that.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say exactly that, and the cynic in the American crowd, and we're not talking baseball because I just heard Shane Bieber's going to be starting for you guys at quarterback, so, and we know how well he goes late in the season. I still can't get over that. But anyway, that's for another time, mate. You mentioned that scenario, and I remember that when Pittsburgh lay down the last game and you guys missed out. But the reality of it is, the cynic would say, well, you had the season in your hands, your destiny in your own hands all year. You could have just won your division if you want to play playoffs, right? So, you still lost 6 games. You could have won a couple of those yourself. So there's that argument. But I just think the delta between 1 and 2 is so unfair now that we're just going to see one. I'd love to see the stats in 5 years' time when 80% of the number 1 seeds are playing in the Super Bowl, which would basically make the entire playoffs a waste.
Just for infrequent listeners, Brash has used the phrase delta, I think 5 times in the last 27 minutes. So I'm not sure if we're talking about the Mekong Delta or an investment strategy or the delta between Fooey's Nuggets and Fooey's Chicken Burgers.
Or the delta between my ears.
I'll be Delta Airlines doing fly in, fly out for the games.
That's right. Did you see what Singapore Airlines have done with their A380s in Changi, just to change the subject for a second? They're offering Singaporeans in-plane dining experiences, just turning their A380s into restaurants on the tarmac at Changi Airport to do something with them, right?
It's like Qantas selling their trolleys of snacks and stuff.
I want to buy one, but they're like $1,000 or something. Someone was telling me for one of those trolleys.
They come with like pajamas and shit, apparently.
They apparently
Brasher doesn't wear pajamas. Come on,
mate. I wear the Qantas grey pajamas class every time. They're perfect.
Absolutely, you would.
Absolutely, you do, mate. Especially by the end of the 14-hour flight, when the elastic's fallen out of the waist, it's hanging around your ass. When you're trying to get at the end of the flight, that's always a good look going through immigration.
Yeah, but Brasher, that's only because of court order involving Qantas, and you have to wear pajamas. Unlike Fooey. Anyway, Blackie, we haven't heard a lot about you.
Fly up behind the back. Sorry.
So, Blackie, we haven't heard a lot about from or involving.
What would you like to know?
What was that?
You haven't heard a lot about me. Ask away.
Oh,
pretty open book.
I didn't even get to finish my sentence, which was on this section of the podcast. I've heard far too much about you on other sections of other podcasts. In terms of the open book, then, Mr. Blackie, Bills Titans. What's your view of? And it's an old, tired question now, but Josh Allen as a quarterback, real deal?
Oh, yeah. I watched over the weekend, and the same thing pops out to me that it does. I think it was to Brasher, that how quick that ball comes out. Oh, he's got one of the strongest arms I've ever seen. Can't even think who would be second. He's the real deal. They've done well to get a good coach, and him and McDermott can play to his strengths. And I think they're going to be good for a while.
Follow-up question, and this is kind of a chicken and egg question, which I know you love. I think you'd agree, as I might have pointed out in an earlier section in the podcast, that Danny Dimes is perhaps not rewarding your boundless faith and love with a performance of excellence so far this year. Is that unfair?
All I've said about Danny Dimes is I think he is a symptom of their issues, not the root cause.
Okay, because what's interesting is he's been sacked the 8th most time of any quarterback this year. So in other words, there are quarterbacks that have been sacked more. Hello, Joe Burrows. But he's in the bottom 8 in terms of he's been sacked 8 times. So I just automatically did, which I think a lot of people did, and Aussie Dude be interested in your views. You see a stat like that, and you just assume that if the quarterback is in that lower part of the ranking, that must be because they're dealing with a shit offensive line. And that's certainly the media perception. I think the first few weeks of the season was that New York had a really shit, apart from Andrew Thomas, the young rookie, they had a really shit offensive line. I did a bit more digging, though, and Danny Dimes has ranked in the top 11 quarterbacks for every week of this season in terms of time in the pocket to throw the ball.
I think you can attribute that to his receivers not running around. But in all seriousness, he doesn't have anything to throw to, and their run game is poor. So I'm not surprised there's coverage sacks because there's no one in the box.
But is that on Danny not throwing the ball away? I totally agree with you that he shouldn't necessarily be expected to throw completion, and certainly the run game post Saquon's injury speaks for itself. The fact they went out and got Devonta says everything. But I don't. For me, the biggest question mark, which I hadn't really been able to express, but now that I thought about it, it is my biggest question. If he was a good quarterback, and this is Wentz's problem, Wentz has got exactly the same fucking problem, and it drives me nuts. If Danny Dimes was really a good instinctive quarterback, and he had that much time in the pocket, yes, his receivers aren't open, so he's not going to be able to throw anything because they're shit receivers. But surely he's got the instinct to throw the ball away instead of getting sacked. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't think he's blameless, but you've got a completely dysfunctional line and offense, and they're getting consistent pressure in the middle. It's hard to get, it's hard to get the ball away when the pressure's right in your face.
They're giving him more time to throw than Aaron Rodgers gets.
I think I would probably dispute that, because I would say that's probably a function of how quick Rodgers gets it out rather than their offensive lines being worse.
Fair enough.
Can I just add to that? I watched the 49ers Giants game, even though we lost both of that game. I thought the Giants line was pretty good in that game. The issue was Jones standing in the pocket and having absolutely nothing to throw it, and the play calling as well, right? So there was no system, no routine, no anything. I think BPG is a victim of trying to make something happen with nothing available. His alternative is to pretend he's playing against a water boy and take 3 nils in a row.
Yeah, and I guess all I'm saying is, if you look at Wentz, that's exactly what Wentz is doing. He's trying to make a play when there's nothing there.
And that's why you can't just look at the numbers, buddy. Right? This is why we can't look at numbers. Oh, he's shit because he's had all these sacks. And I've seen the narrative every week. It's the same thing. The abysmal New York Giants line, blah blah blah. I can throw that. They're not that bad. In fact, that's one of the things I can see light at the end of the tunnel with Giants.
God, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have half their line in Philly, easy.
There are sacks and there are sacks, yeah.
Yeah, and he's definitely blameless, but it probably goes back to coaching. But there are so many issues that they've got on both sides of the ball that there would be a handful of quarterbacks that I think that could dig them out.
Yes, Fooey, we know that the insufferable Aaron Rodgers would be one. Can I throw to you?
I just had a look at Jones's passing charts. Most of them are within 10 yards, and looks like he's throwing quite a lot to his left. So, I mean, it probably is that his wide receivers aren't working hard enough, or they just can't get separation. But it seems like most of them are, fairly short passes. It's not, like he's trying a whole heap of deep passes. He's only throwing a couple of passes that would be classified as deep per game, and it's a mixture of completions and incompletions, but there's no interceptions. All these interceptions have been within 10 yards.
Yeah. And the other thing that stood out when I looked at, and I don't have them open in front of me now, but the other thing that stood out when I looked at the same charts, Aussie dude, was he doesn't overthrow a lot. So you look at some of those guys that have got gun arms that try too hard, but at least they're ditching it downfield and trying for that. Darnold's a classic example of someone that consistently does overthrow. Danny Dimes doesn't have that going for him. He just doesn't. He doesn't. Wherever his mindset is at the moment, he just seems to stay planted in the pocket. And like you said, he throws to the left a lot. And for whatever reason, he just holds the ball. And it frustrates, not that I'm a big New York Giants fan, obviously, but it frustrates the crap out of me. Which is a nice segue into what I was about to ask Fooey, probably as my last request for any input from you, Mr. Quarterback Whisperer, for the week on actual games before we get to fantasy football, and you regale us with how you so almost beat Blackie and Brasher, but failed miserably at the end. With Aaron Rodgers, is it just me, or was he slightly egotistical to come out yesterday and say that his poor games are great games for 87% of the quarterbacks in the league? Is he still a top candidate for the Quarterbacks Association Quarterback Player of the Year?
So to address the first question, I think he's well within his rights. I mean, he's probably unfairly criticised for some for his down years, which are, how many interceptions has he thrown during these down years? He does not turn the ball over, yeah, and which is the criticism of a lot of quarterbacks, and it's just something critical that he does not do. So yeah, I think it's fair of him to say that. I wouldn't say he's comeback player of the year, because he wasn't. He definitely wasn't great last year, but he wasn't horrible enough to be put into that comeback player.
Well, quickly on those turnover stats, a criticism of a lot of us Packer fans the last few years has been that he would, hold on to the ball, throw it away rather than to 60-40 and hope that his wide receiver wins the battle when, or even, your 50-50s. And that's why he doesn't get as many, turnovers, because he hasn't been taking as many risks unless it's a wide receiver that he really trusts, like what it was with Cobb and Nelson and is with Adams now.
Well, follow up with a question for the two I was going to say Brasher fans, but the two Packer fans on the podcast. Big fucking Bob, where the hell did you get him from? And gently, but without being too blunt, is it true to say that perhaps Green Bay is benefiting from a soft run of games, or is it really that they've beaten some ultra tough teams?
I think it's definitely that we've played some pretty poor teams, or a couple of them at the right time, with like the Saints and having Michael Thomas out. But I think part of it's also that the team, really pissed off Rodgers, and he's come off a bit offended, and it kind of rejuvenated him. But you look at his play and his attitude and everything, and it's probably the happiest he's looked in at least 5 years. It looks like he's having fun again for the first time in a while. Whether that is, that he's finally got some motivation again, and whether it's, just he's, I guess, healthy for the first time in a while, because he doesn't come off a year where he's had, soft tissue injuries or shoulder injuries or something like that. But there's just something around him that seems like a throwback to a few years ago. He's happy, he's having fun, and he's trusting the kids, I guess.
So Fui, if I can throw to you, is it true to say that Rodgers is happy because he's not around with Danica anymore, and he can throw to his big Bob all the time and keep his big Bob in the game? Is that really what it's all about? Keeping the big Bob in the game, and
I don't know what you're trying to lead to here, but Robert Tonyan is well, look, I wasn't happy with the way the tight ends were playing the first couple of weeks. There were quite a few drop balls. Don't touch that one, please.
So now you're telling me he's dropped his balls.
But yeah, no. Tonyan,
this is such a Roman Catholic high school boys episode.
But Tonyan flashed a little bit last year. And I think, as someone said on the board, we were kind of expecting probably Sternberger to really be the one that would improve the most. But it seems like Tonyan's put in a lot of work, as has been mentioned by Brasher. He's apparently pretty friendly with good old George Kittle, and they work out together. So it's probably a good example there of what he needs to do. So yeah, no, I think he's probably one to watch. I'm not gonna go and buy a jersey just yet, but let's hope so.
Blackie,
You asked me about Robert Tonyan.
or whatever. I've just exhausted my entire run of jokes for the whole podcast, so it's over to you now.
Fuck, I've got nothing.
It's
These
always
things have
good
to come
it's always good
organically.
to have a follow-up joke that always gets laughs.
To be honest, I was actually thinking about players are testing positive.
My bet, I reckon by tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, American time, it'll be up in the 35. It's insane. They've been flying them in pressurized planes with no face masks. It's just insane. Like, they're not allowed to shake hands and do stuff on the field or in the stadium. Those of you that listened to the very first episode of the podcast pre-season will know that I went through the protocols, and there's all sorts of shit around. They've got to go through different exits, and they can't have contact with certain people. But those protocols are all expressly restricted to the actual confines of the physical stadium. And I think this week's not a preview of week 5. I think we won't see the rest of the season. But anyway, I might
That just happens to be the week that the Ohio State has just accepted the I don't know if it was the Browns or the Bengals to have 12,000 fans at their games for the rest of the season.
That would seriously suck. Hey, we're third ranked in the division, but we almost have the best record, but we can't go to the game. Shit. And segueing, Blackie, back to you. Best 2-2 team: New Orleans, Carolina, Blackie's favorite team of all time, Arizona, after the Broncos, obviously. Brash's team, the 49ers. Which is the best 2-2 team, or is it one of the 2-2 teams I haven't mentioned?
Patriots with Cam.
That's not an answer I was expecting, to be fair.
I watched them nearly knock off Kansas City with just horrific offense and a bizarre call that would have either been a interception or a fumble, not get
And should have
called.
been a touchdown because you would have gone in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably would have been another Miles Jack. But
So has
and
Blackie
then 2
agreed?
drop kicks.
Has Blackie nailed it? Does everybody agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You give Cam
No,
Newton that game, and that's either a really, really tight Kansas City win, or maybe the Patriots knock them off.
Hang on, Nugget Man has a different opinion.
I'm still worried about the Niners, to be honest. I know they've got injuries, but as Brasher said, it's only Bosa that's out for the season, yeah? So that I'm expecting a run from them, in a few weeks. So yeah, no, I'm not buying into Brasher's "we're cooked" statements. So
Yeah, well, a couple of things to add. Just saying that Arizona hasn't won a game since I ordered my Larry Fitzgerald jersey.
Yeah, I blame you. If you curse his Hall of Fame career, I'm going to find you.
I was going to wait till he went to the Hall of Fame, but then I realised how many years that would be, and then it would be a vintage jersey, and it would cost me 4 times as much. And the other thing is check out the Nike Run NFL shoes. On Monday, I ordered the 49ers one, even though the besting one's a Cardinal one. I ordered those on Monday on Fanatics, and the 49ers have more and more injuries going on. So we won't win another game now. I've ordered those. So don't worry about it, Fui. We won't be going anywhere this year.
yeah, I'm not believing you.
I am. If I'll put it this way, if we can't get over the Dolphins,
It's the Dolphins, of course you're going to win.
no, we won't.
But how long term are some of the injuries in the defensive line? Because if they are,
The
6
the
weeks,
D-line,
that could be.
yeah. Well, we
That
lost.
could really put you far behind when they do come back.
Yeah, three of them are out the season. I say it like no big deal. 3 of them are out. Only Bosa, Solomon, and Ziggy now. But to be fair, only Bosa was a contributor. But we're getting, why I do hold a little bit of hope out is none of the rest of the players that are out 3 weeks from now is the furthest projection for any of them not to be playing. Other than, because I missed them in the crowd, D Ford, who probably is never going to play again for us because he's got this mystery back injury that's put him on IR. I don't think he'll play again. So the only good news about that is we pick up about $20 million in salary cap this year when he gets cut. But or gets an injury settlement. So to answer your question, other than those guys, the rest are due back all during this month.
Okay, American Crow, you've got the next 3 minutes of podcast. 3-minute segment is like something that our sponsors pay $5 million for. If you can get it done in less than 3 minutes, that would be fabulous. And then I'll invite Fui as a long-term, and Aussie dude, as long-term participants in the comp to follow up. But can you tell us what because Brasher's struggling a little bit with the concept. What's Armchair Endzone all about? And what's your philosophy for how you do, not just which teams you pick to win, but which ones you rate at the 16 confidence and which ones you have your second thoughts or your fifth thoughts and you only give them the 1 point. How do you approach it?
Well, it's a very complex way that I go about it. I take out a bottle of Jack Daniels and I put down a shot glass. And there's a big board in front of me and I got darts. And I throw a dart at the team, and whatever team it lands on, that's 16, then 15, then 14, all the way down. If you go off the board, hit a window, hit the wall, or whatever, you get a do-over. That's how I approach it. I don't know about you guys.
Very scientific.
I'm going to drop that right now. I'll be back in a sec. What are you singling me for out, BPG? I by the looks of this, I finished the best of all of us this week.
I was going to say, do we have to talk about this?
I know. Fui, you got this. This is even better than your penalty for and against conversation. Fui only got 1 less right than I did, but finished 31 points behind.
My strategy is basically start pretty low on a Thursday game because it is the short week and leave the Sunday and Monday games for fairly high points, even if I'm not confident on them. And then in between, just if I'm confident on a team, then they'll go up higher or lower. But I always like to stack at the end so you can either overtake someone or force them to switch onto a different team on a Monday night because they think they might lose. It's just mind games that hasn't worked out very well this year because everyone I tip is fucking useless.
Take it for what it's worth, which is nothing given how well I'm doing. But I generally keep the home teams in the higher higher CR positions. Just because.
Fui, can I let you in on a little secret?
Yes, please.
Every game's got a home team.
The ones I'm picking are the higher CRs, where if I'm picking the away team, they'll be lower. But that
I'll be
clearly is
honest
not
with you.
working for me.
I'll be honest with you. That's what's fucked me up on the thing here. Is home ground means sweet FA.
Yeah, no.
It'll mean a little bit towards the end of the season with outdoor teams up north, or even your LA and Florida teams with the hot weather in November, December.
So, Brash, does that help you to tip? Have you got an inside guide?
Yeah,
now?
I'm doing them right now. New Orleans, Seattle, Cleveland, Dallas, New England, Miami, Atlanta, Raven, Texas by a country mile, Chiefs, Cards.
Yeah, but which ones do you put higher? I mean, Blackie, what's your secret? Because you've
If
been
I get
more
all of,
asked than class, Blackie.
I put the home teams higher.
Well,
I'm not the only one.
In all seriousness, the method that I've used, it seems to be pretty successful, at least the last season and a half, is the first thing I do is just pick all the winners. I don't, I go on the board and I just pick the teams that I think are going to win. And then I organize by, who you're playing. So when Baltimore plays Washington, it's pretty simple. We all know that's going to be up in the 16, 15, 14 range. That's how I organize it. I know there's been strategies of keeping games, point totals out to Monday. I tried that a couple seasons. I didn't find much success with it, but I understand why people do it. My feeling now is, and it seemed to have been successful, is that just pick the games, and it doesn't really matter. If Monday's a game where I don't think it's more than 5 points or 6 points, I leave it at 5 or 6 points, and I figure if I do well enough on Sunday, it's not really going to matter anyhow. And if I do poorly on Sunday, I can put 16 points on it. It probably ain't going to help me.
Yeah.
So that's how I've done it in all seriousness.
Yeah, I tend to look just the 3 or 4 the 8 standout games and try and split those 4 top and bottom and go from there. So the 4 easiest and the 4 hardest. So I pick the first that I think are just standout wins that I'd put my house on, and then the 4 that I'd put Fui's house on at the bottom, and then really the points in the middle. But that's one strategy. The other strategy I went into this as a rookie was just to pick all 16, try and get them all right, and then who gives a shit what order they're in?
That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the easy way. But that obviously works really well because I think I was nearly the first one out of 3XKO, so fucking me. But anyway.
So, Blackie, in amongst all this strategic variation, how is it that you're acing the field? Well, I'm acing the field because I'm such an amazing person. I just always get everything right.
He doesn't want to tell us. He doesn't want to give away his secrets.
He's obviously very clever. He thinks it's for real money. So now is the time, and I dread this moment every time we have a guest on the podcast, because American Crow really only plays Armchair Endzone, is why I threw to that straight away. Aussie Dude, are you actually in any of our fantasy comps?
No, which is why every time people talk about it in thread, I go, fuck your fantasy teams. Couldn't give a shit about them. Because I know if I go back into them, I'm just going to turn into like a hermit and spend 7,000 hours a week trying to overthink myself. And
I'm not seeing the problem there. What's wrong with that?
Well, that's the perfect description of the co-managing approach, because you might not believe this, Aussie Dude, but Blackie and Brasher are co-managing a team in a fantasy league. Let's just say I think 7,000 hours a week probably understates the amount of effort being put into team selection.
Oh, I wouldn't have believed it until I heard it on the podcast a few weeks ago, and I think they almost lost to, was it you or Fui, and one of them almost beat you and took into like the Monday night game to get them clear.
It was a close run thing when they played me, let's say that. And watch Blackie magically reappear to give me shit.
I've got the same attitude of fantasy as in that if I'm not in it, I don't give a rat's ass. And then if I am in it, you're in it. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Will I be looking at matchups week and waiver-wise as we continually look for a fucking defence? Absolutely. But, yeah. Oh, by the way,
I was on Twitter looking at scouts, see how everyone's going through practice.
By the way, Blackie, I have inserted Kittle and Goff in because Rogers is on a bye. So I think we're done for week already. So our 7,000 hours is split 3,500 hours.
Goff will run a lot of streams against Washington, so he'll get the points there.
Hey, Aussie Dude, you're underplaying it. Brasher has personally purchased 4 extra LED 73-inch screen so that he can not only spend 7,000 hours a week on this, but track his waiver wire option claims on 37 different spreadsheets simultaneously.
It's not far from you, but
So,
But-
Fooey, how did it
Sorry,
feel
mate,
to
just
lose,
before you,
Fooey?
just before you do that,
the-
mate, do that, Aussie dude. This is why you might have not been on the call when we started at the start about our matchup with Fooey's team this week. See, Fooey was put in that annoying position on why I don't like tipping competition, in that the player that we had left on Monday night that we were relying on to get us over the line was his starting quarterback of the team he followed. So that puts me in that annoying quandary of, dates back to AFL days. Fucked if I'm going to cheer for Collingwood right? It's just not going to happen. So I'm with you, and I can't. I'm either in it or not, and unfortunately I'm in this one. And luckily the 49ers have no fit players left anyway, so I don't have to worry about playing against. Although you did start Mullen this week again, didn't you, BPG?
I did, and boy, did I pay a price for that one.
But you won, didn't you?
Yeah, there's
Wow.
a handicapping. I am league commissioner. I can engineer a win off anything. Fooey, can you give us, off the back of that outstandingly excellent description from our dear friend, Mr. Brasher, can you give us a bit of a play-by-play description of what it felt like to be so confident that you were hosing him that you posted in a little Skype chat? Not once, not twice, but 13 different times about how you were winning, and then you went quiet. Were you actually rooting for Aaron Rodgers to throw for interceptions, or?
No, at the end of the day, if it comes down to cheering for the Packers and Rodgers to throw touchdowns, or Brashers and Blackies, wanting them to lose, it's always going to be the Packers. I mean, people like Brasher and Blackie, they need this. Where my football team is 4-0, so I don't need to win fantasy football.
It's almost the same mentality as betting against your team. So even if they win, you win, or if they lose, then you win money.
Which I've made a lot of money on the Adelaide Crows this
Made
we
a
got
lot of
beat.
money tipping against Carlton doing that, but that's because I'm a Pies fan.
My team is honestly just not very good, but I found that there's a good chance that'll all be turned around this week because of who I'm playing. So I'm confident again.
I know what you really wanted on Monday morning. Or Monday when was it? Tuesday afternoon. What you really wanted was Aaron Rodgers throw for about 250 yards and have Jones rush for about six touchdowns. That's what you really wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me the truth. You didn't even know who that tight end was, did you?
No, I'm all over Tonyan. Don't worry about that.
But
game.
Aussie dude brought it up before. I joke. You hear me joke a lot about who's going to cop the Rodgers death stare this week when a pass falls incomplete. Right? He was smirking and smiling that whole game. Halfway through that game, I knew we were going to run all over you because he was going to put on one of those shows, which he did. Yeah. He would. I can't remember the last time I've seen him smiling on the field.
Mm.
So it bodes well for you guys this year.
Yeah. The way I actually negate, having to kind of cheer against the team I'm going for is by having like 10 different fantasy teams where I have so many players. I'm going for everyone. So.
Yeah,
Are you winning in at least one?
It's a Fooey, of course not. Of course he isn't.
Let's just say yes.
In one Aussie, he must be, because in one of the comps he's in, I think he owns every team in it. And he's still not leading.
First fantasy football comp where every single result for the last 23 weeks has been a tie.
Sounds like a competition that GG could win.
Oh, don't even get us started.
Oh, no.
So, Blackie, if you're back with us, can you give us your secrets to armchair end zone success? Because you're the only person on the panel that's really asking it.
No, he's not back.
I am back.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. I just try and choose the winners. I try and make sure that for my max CR, I've got home team. But who fucking knows?
So this is no different to what I do.
Yeah, but I
I'm
choose
all
the
way
right
down
team.
Fooey, what you just said is the same as, I don't know, Nick Mullins looking at Aaron Rodgers in the quarterback association change rooms and saying, what you did is no different than what I did. I threw the ball. Yes, Fooey, you made picks. And yes, Blackie made picks, but not oranges and oranges. Sorry.
I thought you'd use like Nathan Peterman or someone, and then you just basically come with a punchline. Yeah, but I threw him to the right team.
Hey, I'll have you know, Peterman still has some potential. All right, I'm
Is he
not
still in the
totally.
league?
I'm
The
God, yeah,
Raiders.
He's at the Raiders.
I'm not convinced
thought
that he
they
won't
cut him.
be playing ahead of young Mr. Carr, who, by the way, seems to be Fooey's second favourite love child after Joe Burrows.
Oh, no, he's about 5th. Come on.
And I'll shit on them both in the podcast.
You shut on Burrow?
Yeah.
Not a high bar, Blackie, not a high bar.
Oh, if
American
anything-
Crow, have you got anything else to regale us with from this outstanding upcoming week? Anything you're really looking forward to, apart from the Steelers missing yet another game?
Well, a big Browns win, right? We roll up another 250 yards on the ground, go to 4-1, move out of third place so that Brasher will then think we can actually are a chance to qualify. And it'll be, well, first let's hope there is a week. I see, same as you guys, there's all kinds of reports of more positives for Tennessee and New England. So let's hope we have a week to start with. But the game that I was looking forward to watching, believe it or not, aside from the Browns, was the Bills and the Titans. I don't think it's going to go forward now. But yeah, that's how I see the week.
Thank you for joining us, mate. Really appreciated having you on. Revel in being 3-1. Revel in revisiting the Butchie Davis days. And we'll get you back later in the year. Yeah, man?
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
No worries. Have a great and
Thanks.
Seriously enjoy it, man, because let's face it doesn't happen often. Blackie, as a Broncos fan, having gone from a fan in disbelieving joy to a fan that, yeah, you're starting Brett Rippon. What's your objective from the week, Blackie? Using the phrase delta more often?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think the delta between how many drinks I used to have to get me through the week and how many I have now is pretty large. But we've got a few young players that it's the least enjoyable to watch. Judy being the number one, but Chubb actually had a good game last Thursday night. So hopefully he can carry that form and give us something to cheer about.
Oh, you mean Bradley, not Nick. Okay.
Yep.
Fine. There's so many Chubb. Yeah, anyway, I won't get. Aussie dude, as a fellow guest on the podcast, your last thoughts for the week ahead? Any kind of insights that I've deprived you of providing by my appalling hosting skills?
Not really. Not that I can think of at the moment.
Nothing. Aussie dude.
Not a whole lot, no.
Best.
I know.
All right, I'll
A lot
give
of
you
it
one.
depends on
Best
if games
Best
will
Van
play or
Halen
not.
experience.
Not a fan. Not my music. I'm a 90s and early 2000s punk fan.
True, definitely not Eddie's music. I'll give you that. Anything else in terms of best NFL punk song, perhaps?
None, because you don't want to be punting. I don't know, I've never really thought about it. I don't really think the NFL really does music that well. I always love the college system with music more, with their marching bands and their fight songs and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I have heard Bro Hymn by Pennywise at the stadium music. I can't remember whose stadium it was, but I've heard it at least twice.
That would have been probably, someone pretty nuts, maybe a Raiders or Steelers game. But
Possibly, yeah.
Well, I'll edit this bit out of the podcast, but you children should read the attached link. 3 days after I got off the plane when I arrived in Australia, I was given a old school, these things called cassette tapes that, again, you blokes have probably never seen. I was given one of those. Hey?
I'm just old enough to remember cassette tapes.
I was given one of those along with a Walkman. That was my only two things that I actually had when we landed in Australia. And I'm together with a cassette tape of Billy Joel, so you can guess which one of the two I listened to. And it's funny because I've never since bought a Van Halen album. I've got a digital edition of the DVD. Obviously every DVD is digital, but this one's the digitally remastered version. That's on order as of this morning. So yeah, funny how little things like that stick in your mind. Speaking of little things, Fooey, but perhaps not in mine, what's your insight for the week?
Honestly, it's exactly the same as AC. It's like hopefully we have a week. Yeah, I'm not too confident in that at the moment. So yeah, let's just see how the next couple of days go.
Brash, closest possible symbol to Van Halen for NFL fan.
Single. Give you an album.
That's cool.
150. They're 1984. Anyway, what am I looking forward to this week? That there is competition, that the 49ers actually don't play any more practice squad players this week. And that'd be about it. Because we're playing Fitz. I don't know what's the worst medicine, mate. 2-0 making his debut, or Fitzmagic. That's what we've got to look forward to. So, yeah, look, if we can stay upright, I'll be happy. And hopefully there's a competition.
Oh, on that happy note, Blackie, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, especially our wonderful guests, American Crow and Aussie Dude. And we'll get you back.
Cheers, boys.
See you, everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.